Hi there, Renee Oste of Lowell, Massachusetts. This is part two of talking about my background. This time it's about court research. I would love to be your prospect researcher for your nonprofit, and this time as a court researcher with my legal background taught me thrifty and simple ways to do prospect research because technically I'm a self-taught prospect researcher. I started my St. Michael's project in 2019 from scratch using old class rosters in the basement rectory to build up a database of knowledge to be used for the newly formed Alumni Association. And so here we go. At this point in time in 2016, I was volunteering at the Department of Children and Families. My youngest had an educational disability which wasn't properly supported by the local public school systems. Unfortunately, Lowell Public is overwhelmed and underfunded. And I was struggling because he doesn't have a learning disability. His intellectual abilities are present. He had an educational disability of writing dysgraphia. So it presents as a learning disability, but really was an educational disability. And I was constantly fighting with special ed. And my father-in-law had a decade-long battle with Alzheimer's. And it deeply affected the dynamics of our family and the needs of how things work. So I found this job as a court researcher using my legal background, and it did not pay well. And that's not the fault of the employer. It was just very low profit margins. It was very clear to me that this was more of a stay-at-home mom job who wanted a few extra dollars. But I was trying my best to always do my best, taking those talents, learning things. So I had a general background of understanding legal websites, trying to find things in a probate, court setting. And I was using those skills of trying to find things like in a registrar's office and being very efficient at it. Because this was being used for marketing purposes, sort of like for flipping real estate. Maybe your grandmother passed away, you're filing probate. Well, I was there looking up your information and to find your contact information for real estate flipping marketing purposes. That was the goal. And on a daily basis, I was constantly doing all this research, just finding information and also the contact information. So it wasn't just, oh, this property, but how do we contact them? Who is the administrator or the executor of this estate? Well, we need their contact information. How do I find that contact information? Doing this over for over 6 years. This is the reason why please consider me as your prospect researcher because I took that ability and I created a database from scratch. In 2019, I didn't even know what the term prospect researcher was. It wasn't until I was visiting a college with my daughter. It was Merrimack College in February of 2020. And the person at the alumni table was like, you could be a prospect researcher. I was like, what is that? So then I was just deep diving on top of my work as a court researcher, but also building up the database for the Alumni Association. And I was very grateful in January of 2023. I got a scholarship for the Nendris Boot Camp, and everybody's been so sweet and friendly to me. I got the mentorship. They had a 3 to 5 mentoring program. So sweet, guys. But the ability to be thrifty, because everything that I was doing as a court researcher were not on paid sites. Sometimes we did pay to get access to particular like a legal website, or sometimes the owners did have to pay for that. But it was a very thrifty organization because it seems like marketing for real estate doing this way was kind of no defense, but the clients, actually the clients who were purchasing this information were kind of like cutthroat. They were real estate flippers. And I wanted somewhere where I could be nice and doing the good and being the good. And that's prospect research, guys. And I would love to be your prospect researcher. I know I was working off of old class rosters, and then building something from scratch with no budget, no nothing. So imagine what I could, because everyone gets I know, guys, but you did not have the screening software. You did not have the expensive CRM. I know. And people always like, that's like the screening filter. That's a screen. Like if you don't have that, but I can do it, guys, for you. I can do it for you. Just give me, the opportunity. And I love doing this, and I created something that was very good that's being put to use. Anyways, love you all.